すんわん。前は一人で救出に駆けつけたが、このボートには二人しか乗れん。ミステリーよし。何を救うため海兵。狙い一体何を救う。
What's up everybody, Zolo here. Today we're doing a little bit of a different video. I know there's a lot of people who are just coming into the One Piece community, so I've had some people ask me to make a how to play video. So this is how to play the One Piece TCG. And a little bit of an overview. We're going to show the basics of how to read a leader and the different cards in the game. And I'm going to explain the different colors and kind of the general idea of each one. Then we're going to go into the keywords and what they mean. Then the layout of the board, as well as best practices for in-person matches. Then we're going to switch it over and go into a gameplay video of me playing against myself with two, not super basic, but two decks that you'll probably be seeing a lot of, so. And then thoughts on where to get started as of March 2026. Alright, first things first, we've got the leader card. Every deck has at least one leader, or not at least, it's only got one leader. And we'll kind of go over the basics on how to read the leader card and what to do with it. So first, in the One Piece card game, there's this idea of resting cards. So it's when you turn a card sideways, and it means a couple different things. One, it means that you're going to attack with it on your turn, and that's the way that you attack with it. The other thing is, it is a way to let people know what cards can be attacked, so you can only attack rested cards. There are a few decks that specifically get around that effect, but for the most part, you're only going to be attacking rested cards. But the leader is a little bit different. It can be rested, and it will get rested to attack, but even when it's not rested, which we call active, it can still be attacked. So generally, attack power, most leaders will have 5,000 attack power, some have 6,000, and some have abilities to make it 7,000, but generally you're going to have 5,000 as your attack power. What this basically means is the way One Piece works, you have the attack power, and then when you're hitting into another card, your opponent's card, you need to be at the same attack power or higher in order for you to do damage to that character or leader. So for instance, if you're attacking 5,000 with Zoro into another 5,000 leader, that'll do 1 damage. But if you're attacking 5,000 into 6,000, it won't do anything. So next we have the leader effects, which is down here. Every leader has an leader effect, while not every character has effect. For instance, this one is Dawn ×1, your turn, all of your characters gain plus 1,000 power. And I'll kind of explain that when we go over keywords, but basically, when you add one of these Dawns down here, each Dawn is worth 1,000 attack power, so you're going to add a Dawn to Zoro, which gives it 6,000 attack power. And then when you do that, all of your other characters that are on the field gain 1,000 power automatically. Then we have life. You cannot see that. Let me move my character over here. Right down here we have life. So Zora has 5 life. Basically, whenever you shuffle your deck and then draw your 5 cards for your starting hand, you will then take the next 5 cards and put them into your life area. And then the idea of the game is when you attack your opponent, they'll take a life to hand, so they'll take a card to hand, always the top card. And once your opponent has 0 cards in their life area, and then you attack one more time and it goes through, that's when you win the game. So then we have color, which is for Zoro is going to be red. It's going to be right here. There are 6 different colors in the game. I'll go over what they mean later. But basically what this does is for Zoro, he's only red. So that means you can only have red cards in your deck. And you won't be able to add blue, yellow, any other color to your deck. And then finally we have the crew, or the type that the leader is. So this one is Supernovas and Straw Hat Crew. This is really only important when you start talking about characters, because some of the stipulations for cards will say if your leader is a Straw Hat Crew or if your leader is a Supernova, do this. Alright, we can move on from there. Next we have the character cards. So these are the cards other than your leader that you're going to be playing out onto the character area. So just like leaders, we have the attack power. This one is 3,000. So for instance, if you want to attack 5,000, you'll have to add these Dawn cards, and you'll have to add 2 to get it up to 5,000 power. Then we have the Dawn cost. So the way it works is when you're going first, you're going to get 1 Dawn card, and you start out with 10 in your Dawn deck, and that's the max amount of Dawn cards is 10. So whoever goes first, they add 1 Dawn card, and then that's what this cost represents. So you would have to rest 3 Dawn cards in order to play out this EZO. And like I said, if you're confused, once I get into the gameplay, it'll become a little bit more obvious. So then what happens is the person who goes second, they'll get 2 Dawn cards. And then the turn after that, you will get 2 Dawn cards added to your Dawn every single turn. So basically, whoever goes first will go 1 to 3 to 5 to 7. Then whoever goes second will go 2, 4, 6, 8. Next we have a character effect. A lot of character cards have the effect. Some don't. We call those vanilla cards. They're basically just the cost, the power, and then nothing else. In this case, it's on play, so when you play it out, you rest one of your opponent's characters with a cost of 4 or less. This would be a 3 cost, so technically you can rest one of your opponent's Uzos or any other 4 or less cards. So next we have the counter. See this counter plus 2,000 right here. And I might be switching how I say it, but basically whenever I go 2k, it just means 2,000. So the way it works in One Piece is that some of these cards will have plus 2,000 or plus 1,000, and some of them won't at all. And the idea is if you're attacking into your opponent for, let's say, 5,000 into 5,000, your opponent can use these counter effects and basically discard the card and then get the counter, and it'll add the amount onto their power total. So if you're attacking 5,000 into 5,000 and you don't want to take a life and you want to not take a hit basically, you can get rid of these. You can counter for 1,000, discard a card, and add the counter to your power. And that'll make it so your leader is 6,000, and so your opponent's attack does not go through. Next we have color, just like the leader card. So Izo can only be used in green decks. This Nami can only be used in yellow decks. Pretty self-explanatory. And then we also have the crew. So this one is Wano and former Whitebeard pirates. And this Nami Straw Hat crew. And yeah, that's just the basics for character cards. Next we have event and stage cards. So basically you have your leader card, character cards, and event cards, which is this one cost right here, and stage cards, which is this other one cost, Corrida Coliseum. So let's first look at events. Events will have a cost, they will not have a power. So this costs 1, and generally they say main, and this one is a main / counter, which means that you can use it on your turn or your opponent's turn. I'll just read this one out. Give up to one of your leader or characters plus 1,000 power for this turn. After this, if your opponent has 2 or less life, rest up to one of your opponent's 4 cost or lower characters. So the idea is you rest 1 Dawn. On your turn, you can play this out, gain 1,000 for the turn, and then rest a 4 cost or less if your opponent has 2 or less life. Or you can rest 1 Dawn on your opponent's turn to play out this card as well. So next we have triggers. Basically what a trigger does is on your opponent's turn, if you take the life, and let's say it's this flame split 1 cost, you can then, instead of putting it in your hand, you can use this trigger. So what you'll do is you'll say, I'll use a trigger, you put this card in your trash, and then you use the trigger effect, which is rest up to one of your opponent's 4 cost or lower characters. And I'll just keep on repeating myself. Once you see the gameplay, it'll become more apparent how triggers work, how counter events work, how countering works, everything like that. Events also have crew types. Basically, crew types make it easy for... There's a certain card that basically searches the top 5 of your deck, and you get to pick one of a certain crew type. Then next we'll look at the stage. You can see it's a stage or an event right here. It'll say event or stage. Stages also have a cost. This one has a 1 cost, for instance. And it says, if your leader has the Dressrosa type, your character that has the Dressrosa type can attack characters on the turn that they are played. And yeah, pretty self-explanatory. Here, let me move my guy a little bit again. This is a more complicated one. This is a 7 cost stage. It's called the Empty Throne. And as you can see, it has some more effects than the Coliseum. And yeah, we'll kind of go into what these effects exactly mean. So next we have the different colors of the One Piece trading card game. There are 6 colors: red, green, blue, purple, black, and yellow. Some leaders will have multicolors, so they'll have 2 different colors. And generally the way that works is there'll be like a yellow black, a red green. And the idea is you can use cards from both color types in that deck. So a black and yellow leader can use black colored cards and yellow colored cards. So the general premise for the different colors, we've got red. This is your aggressive deck. Likes to play a lot of small bodies and just be super aggressive, attack as many times as it can. The other archetype for red is power reduction. So like I was showing here, you've got power of 3000. Red has some cards that can reduce the power on your opponent's turn, on your turn, stuff like that. Next we have green, is mostly known for resting cards. So you'll see in the gameplay, but basically resting is turning your card sideways. If a card is rested, that means it can't attack because you have to rest it in order to attack. So the idea of green is you rest their board, they can't attack, they can't use certain abilities that require the card to be rested. Next we have blue. This is the card draw color. You're gonna have a lot of drawing effects for this color. And then it also can bottom deck cards for removal. So bottom decking is where you take a card or a character off the field and put it to the bottom of your opponent's deck. This is good just because there are some cards that have on KO effects. So on KO is basically when it gets removed from board by a KO effect or gets destroyed by an attack, it'll use that on KO effect. But when you're bottom decking it, it doesn't use the on KO. It just uses it doesn't do anything. It just gets put to the bottom of the deck. Next we have purple. This is the Dawn manipulation. So you're going to be adding Dawn with effects. You're going to be removing Dawn with effects. Then we have black. This is trash manipulation. Whenever an event is used or a character is KO'd, they get moved to the trash, and the black decks can take cards out of trash or have effects that are based on how many cards you have in trash. And then they're also the removal color. They can do a lot of KO effects, so they'll have cards that will say KO a character that has a cost of a certain amount or less. Then finally we have yellow. This is the life manipulation color and the trigger color. So basically yellow can move cards around in your life depending on effects, or move cards around in your opponent's life. And then it generally has the most cards with triggers on it. So when you do that, you can kind of stack your life and then have certain triggers go off when you want them to. All right, on to keywords. If you played a TCG before, a lot of these are going to be similar to the other TCGs you've played, but in case you haven't, I have most of them here. And, don't feel like it's overwhelming. You'll just kind of learn it as you play more, so I wouldn't worry about it too much, but we'll go into them. We have the blocker effect. That means that a character can be rested and then it becomes the target for your opponent's attack. Basically, if your opponent's attacking, like let's say your leader for 5,000 and you have the blocker on board, you can rest that card and then it'll attack the blocker. Then we have Rush. The character can attack the turn that it is played. Every character that doesn't have this effect on them will not be able to attack the turn that it's played. So you'll play out a card and then the next turn you can attack with it. Whereas with Rush, you can just immediately attack. Then we have Banish. And what this effect does is any character or leader with this effect, whenever you attack a leader and your opponent takes it, that card gets put to trash. No trigger effects, doesn't get added to your hand. Then we have Double Attack. This basically means that you deal 2 damage to life instead of 1. So your opponent will take 2 life off if the attack goes through. However, that only counts for the life cards, so let's say your opponent has 1 life. If you double attack and they take it, that doesn't mean that the game is over, they just take the 1 life. You still have to attack again in order to win the game. Trigger, which I've already shown, is when you use the trigger effect when taking a life. Then unblockable, it means your opponent can't use the blocker effect on any of their characters. Then we have Character Rush, which is a new effect. It's basically Rush, but you can only attack other characters, you can't attack leader. Then we have Dawn Minus and Times. So this one's going to take a little bit more explaining. Basically, you have your Dawn deck, which has 10 Dawn. It's your first turn, you bring 1 of those Dawn into the played area. It's your second turn, you bring 3 in. Then you could potentially use a Dawn Minus effect. So let's say you play out a 3-cost character, you rest 3 Dawn. You're gonna use the Dawn Minus effect, so you take 1 of the rested Dawn that's in your Dawn area and you put it back into your Dawn deck. And then the Dawn Times is basically there will be a card that will say Dawn times 2 or Dawn times 1. Basically all that means is you have to attach 1 or 2 Dawn to that character in order to use the effect. Then we have Counter. I've explained that already. You have Counter plus 1000, 2000. You're going to be using the counter on your opponent's turn to get out of swings from an attack. Then we have KO. This basically means whenever your character is defeated or is removed by a KO effect to the discard pile, you can then use the KO effect. Then lastly, we have Activate Main. This is an effect that you can use every turn. Sometimes there's stipulations for using the Activate Main, but basically whenever you see this, you can use this every turn. This isn't the entire list. I did leave out a few, but they were generally like pretty self-explanatory ones. So there's on play, when you play it, use the effect. When attacking, when that character or leader attacks, you can use the effect. And then once per turn, obviously once per turn. All right, this is the board. This is 2 different players. So the one that's right side up, that'll be your side, and the one that's upside down will be your opponent's side. So first we'll go leader. Generally put your leader right here. Doesn't really matter, you can put it anywhere in this area. Then we have the stage area, which is generally to the right of your leader. Some people like to put it up above their deck. Doesn't really matter. We've got the deck, which is a 50 card deck. So you'll have 51 cards, including your leader. And some people put that above there as well. Then we have the trash, which is generally below your deck. The trash doesn't really matter. You can put this anywhere, but this is generally where I put mine as well. Then this little Japanese symbol down here, this is where your Dawn deck will go. So you put 10 of your Dawn cards face down, and then the cost area is where you'll put them when they become active. So turn 1, you put 1 there. Turn 2, you put 3 there. Oh, I should probably move my character just a tiny bit. So yeah, we got stage, we have deck, where your deck goes, and trash. Next, we'll talk about the character area. You can only have 5 characters here at one time, so if you have 5 here and you want to play out another one, you'll have to move one to the trash to replace it. You'll always have 1 leader, 1 stage, and up to 5 characters at a time. There are certain instances where you want to play another stage. In that case, you'll have to trash the current stage as well. And then finally, we have the life cards. So the way it works is you shuffle your deck, you let your opponent cut your deck, you usually roll dice at some point there to decide who goes first. After you decide who's going first and who's going second, you will draw 5 cards from your deck. You will look at that first 5 and decide if you want to keep that first 5 or put it back in your deck, shuffle again, and then pull another 5. Generally, once you're done with that, you're gonna put your life cards. So some people go top to bottom. Just based on the rules, you're supposed to go bottom to top. So what you do is you take 1 card, put it to life, take 1 card, put it on top of that, take 1 card, put on top of that until you have the total amount of life that your leader has. And the idea is you're always going to be taking the top life. So when your opponent attacks into you and you decide to take it, you will take your life, you'll look at it, see if there's a trigger. If there's not, you say no trigger. If there is, you decide whether or not you want to use the trigger. Then if you don't have a trigger or don't want to use it, you take it, put it in your hand. There is no limit for how many cards you can have in hand. If there is a trigger and you want to use it, you take the card from your life, put it in trash, and then use the trigger effect. I think that's really it for the board. I can't really think of anything else. So we'll go into best practices. So these are kind of just like good manners for when you're playing at your locals. Obviously, you won't have to do this on the sim, but generally, I would tell people that you're new. The community is super nice. We try to get as many people to play the card game as possible, get more people into locals. So just tell people you're new. They'll be super helpful. They'll kind of tell you, oh, you did this wrong. Here, just take it back, or that kind of thing. A pet peeve of mine personally is if you don't know what a card does and you want to read it, just ask the person before you grab it. If, you know, for whatever reason they don't want you to read it, they'll read it to you or something like that. I mean, some of these cards are very expensive, so I understand why people maybe don't want other people to grab them. Generally, you say good luck before you start, give your opponent a little fist bump, and then you start playing the game. Don't forget, it's a community. We want people to talk to each other, communicate, have fun. I will say though, if somebody's concentrating on their turn, trying to figure out exactly what they're doing. You know, they're not trying to ignore you if they don't respond. They're just trying to concentrate. Generally, when you're rolling dice, most people just have regular dice, so you ask, do you want to go high or low? So whoever gets the highest with high wins, or the lowest. And then generally, when you're done with the game, you want to say good game, GG's, you know, that kind of thing. Just basic good manners. And I would also say every community is different. So one community can be very competitive and people are playing competitive decks, whereas some communities can be a lot more lighthearted. I would just join a community, get on your Bandai TCG Plus app, find a local that's near you on a day that you can go. Join in, try to meet some new people, and just kind of see what your community's like. Alright, we will stop that for now. And I will go ahead and get into the game that I was going to do. So we're going to do Emu versus Nami. The reason I'm showing off Emu is because it's a good deck to pick up when you're starting out. It's like one of the cheapest decks and it's super competitive in the meta. So we will show off that deck, and then EBO3 is kind of like the new deck in the meta. So we'll move my guy over again. And yeah, so let's just get into the gameplay. So we'll read the leader first. Emu, 5,000 power, black, leader, 4 life. Says, under the rules of this game, you cannot include events with the cost of 2 or more in your deck. So basically you're going to have a bunch of events that are just 1 cost events. And also at the start of the game, play up to 1 Merry Ghost type stage from your deck. So you can see down here we have 2 different stages. First is the Holy Land Merry Ghost. And your turn, character cards that cost 2 or more and have the Celestial Dragon type cost 1 less to play from your hand. And then we have the 7 cost stage that I showed earlier, the Empty Throne. Your turn, if you have 19 or more cards in your trash, your leader gains plus 1,000 power. Activate main, you may rest this stage and 3 of your Dawn cards. Play up to 1 black 5 Elders type character with a cost equal or less than the total number of Dawn cards on your field from your hand. And I'll kind of show how these work, but we're going to pick the Empty Throne. This is the better of the 2. The only time that you use the Holy Land is in the mirror, because there is an event card that trashes the Empty Throne, so you're going to want to use the 1 cost. So we'll pick the Empty Throne. What happened is it shuffled my deck and then automatically gave me 5 cards. So generally, oh, actually I should probably read the rest of this card. So activate once per turn, you may trash 1 Celestial Dragon type card from your field or 1 card from your hand and you draw a card. So generally the idea of Emu is you have these 5 Elder Celestial Dragons. There's 5 of them. And the idea is to put them in your trash, and then there's a 10 cost 5 Elders card that pulls them out of your trash. And you get to play all 5 all at once. And so they all have different effects. I'm not going to go over each one of them right now. I'm just going to go over them when I play them out. So the idea is you kind of want to be searching through your deck, putting cards in trash, and trying not to take as much damage as possible for Emu. So one of the celestial dragons is a searcher, and what a searcher basically does is it looks at the top 5 cards of your deck. You get to pull out one card and then you put the rest to the bottom of your deck, or you put the rest of that hand, the rest of the 4 cards, into the trash. And it'll specify whether or not it goes to bottom of the deck or trash. So looking at this hand, it's not a terrible hand. I got some of the celestial dragons and I got a searcher event. So this searcher event looks at the top 3, reveal 1 celestial dragon other than this card, and a lot of the searchers will say that. It'll say other than the search card. And then add it to your hand, and then you throw the rest in trash. So we'll go ahead and keep. So it immediately puts 4 cards in my life. Then we'll look at the Nami, because I'm playing the Nami as well. 5,000 leader, 4 life leader. This is a multicolored leader, so I can use yellow and blue cards in this deck. It says, your turn, once per turn, you may activate this effect when a life card leaves any life area, so Emu's life or Nami's life. Draw 1 card if you have 7 or less cards in your hand. Then Dawn times 1, so we put 1 Dawn on her. We can activate the second effect. On your opponent's attack, once per turn, you may trash 1 card from your hand. This leader gains plus 2,000 power during the entire turn. It doesn't let me choose whether or not I want to go first or second, but I'm gonna assume that Emu goes first, which is actually not the curve that it wants. It wants to go second. But anyway, we'll just skip over that part. Some decks will want to go second, some decks will want to go first. Nami generally doesn't care. So when you kind of learn the different matchups, you'll learn whether or not a deck wants to go first or second. So if I had a choice as Nami, I would go second just because I know Emu wants to go second. Anyway, basically the idea with Nami is you're going to take away their life using effects and add life using effects. And you generally want to have 1 Dawn on Nami at the end of your turn, every turn. So looking at the cards, so I do have 1 searcher and I have a 4 costs to play out, so you know, we'll keep this as well. So turn 1, going first, Emu gets 1 Dawn, so it takes the card from here, puts it here, and then we can use that 1 Dawn. So we're going to use that. We're going to spend 1 Dawn, we're going to look at the top 3, and then we're going to trash the rest. So I can only pick 2 cards. We're gonna go ahead and pick... we'll pick this one because we don't have it yet. This is when you have 7 or more in trash, this character cannot be removed from the field by your opponent's effect and gains rush. If you have 10 or more cards in trash, give up to one of your opponent's characters minus 2k in power. So we're going to take that, we're going to throw the rest in trash. You can see they're in trash now. And then generally speaking, you want to go ahead and use your leader ability. So you want to trash 1 card to draw 1 card. We're going to trash this I'm losing my edge card. It's a counter event. Up to one of your leaders gains 1k for this battle. Then if your trash has 10 or more, add 1 black character with a cost of 3 or less to your hand. Not as good as this ground death card, so we're going to go ahead and trash it. And then we draw this blocker card. So now we already have 4 cards in trash. One other thing I didn't mention is on your first turn, you cannot attack with leader or characters. So we have nothing left to do. We're going to go ahead and end the turn, send it over to Nami. She gets 2 Dawn. Not too much I can do here. So we're just going to go ahead and use the search event. Look at the top 4. Reveal 1 card with a cost of 2 to 8. Add it to your hand. Put the rest at the bottom of your deck. What we're going to do is we're going to take this young girl card. It's a great card for Nami to have in the beginning of the game. She can activate main once per turn, give a rested Dawn. So one of these sideways Dawns that you have already used. And she can give it to Nami. So we're going to go ahead and take that. And then one other thing I forgot to mention is when you're searching and you're putting cards at the bottom of your deck, you get to choose the order. So I'm going to reorder it. I don't want these last 2 cards. This card will be better. So if I do get to the bottom of my deck, I can grab that card. And because Nami gets the Dawn ×1 effect, we're going to go ahead and put 1 Dawn on. We can attack, but might as well just have that 1 Dawn on there. So this is another reason why Emu wants to go second. A lot of the curve for Emu is even. So like for instance now I can't really do anything. I can use my leader ability though, so we're gonna trash a card. We're gonna go ahead and trash... we'll go ahead and trash this 4 cost because I know for a fact we're gonna use this searcher 4 cost. So we'll do that. We get another Ground Death event. This is you may rest 2 of your Dawn cards, negate the effect of one of your opponent's characters that cost 5 or less, and then counter if you have 10 or more cards in your trash, up to one of your leader or characters gains plus 4,000 for the battle. So I can't really do anything else. I'm not going to be able to get 10 cards in my trash, so I'm not going to be able to use the counter event. So we're just going to go ahead and attach the 3 Dawn straight to Emu, and we're going to swing for 8. So in this situation, I can make my Nami a 7k leader, and then if I wanted to, I could counter out another 2k. I don't really care. I'm gonna go ahead and take the first life. Generally, you want to take the first life. It doesn't really matter until the later part of the game. So we have a couple options here. We can play out these 4 costs, but the only problem with that is then I won't have a Dawn to put on to Nami. So what we really want to do is we want to play out this young girl. On play, draw 1, trash 1, and then we can give a rested Dawn to Nami. So we're going to do that. And looking at my cards, we're going to go ahead and trash this Kikanojo. 4 cost 6k on KO. If your opponent's life is 3 or less, place the top card of your deck to the top of your life. It's not a counter card. I'm probably not going to play it next turn anyway. So we'll go ahead and trash it. Then we don't really have anything else to play out, so we're going to go ahead, activate this main effect, give a rested Dawn to Nami, and then we'll put 2 more Dawn on because we have nothing else to play, and go ahead and attack. So in this situation, Emu generally wants to save his life, but an 8k swing into a 5k swing, that's a lot of cards I would have to get rid of. So we're going to go ahead and take that life. We got no trigger, so it just goes straight to hand. And then because Emu took a life, I can draw a card with Nami because I have 7 or less. And we'll go ahead and end turn. So now we are back on Emu. What we're going to want to do is try to get as many cards in trash as possible so that all these effects that are 7 or more can be active. We're not going to be able to do that this turn, it looks like, but we can go ahead. So what we'll do is we'll use our stage. We rest the stage. we rest 3 Dawn cards. And then, because I have 5 Dawn, I can play out this 4-cost Saturn. And he's a basic searcher for the 5 Elder cards. And he can actually take himself, so it looks like maybe that's what we're gonna do. We'll go ahead and take himself. Doesn't really matter how we put it back. Then we will trash. We'll trash the one that we just took. Draw another card. So we're at 6 right now. So this can still be removed by the opponent's effects. And because we're not going to be able to get 10 in trash, we're just going to go ahead, attach the 2 Dawn to the leader. And because these are 1,000 each for the Dawn, it becomes 7k when attacking. And generally you want to, at least against Nami, because she can become a 7k leader, you want to generally attack with the 7k or higher. You never really want to attack for 6 unless that's all you have. And since I do probably want to start saving some life, we're going to go ahead, we're going to trash the Eustace Kid, make her a 7k leader because we have the Dawn on her. And then we'll go ahead and we will trash this pudding. This pudding is really strong. 4 cost, 4,000 power, 1k counter. Your opponent returns all of their hand cards to their deck and then shuffle their deck, and then they get to draw 5 cards. I just know from experience that this card isn't going to be super helpful in this matchup, so we're going to go ahead and use the 1k counter to make my Nami an 8k power, so we do not take the hit. And we're going to end our turn. And look at that, we got another pudding. So in this scenario, generally you want to play out this 5-cost Nami. 5 cost 6k, 1k counter, give up to 1 rested Dawn to your leader. Then if your opponent has 3 or more life cards, your opponent adds 1 card from the top of their life to their hand. And then on KO, you may return 1 card from the top of your life card face up, play up to 1 card with 6k or less from your hand. So we're going to go ahead and do that because we really want to get the first effect where they need 3 or more life. Whereas if I played the pudding and then attacked with leader, they would probably take the life because they know that I want to play this Nami card. So we're going to do that. We're going to give 1 rested Dawn to Nami. Opponent takes a life. And because the opponent takes a life and it left the life area, we get to draw a card. So we only have 1 Dawn left. We're going to go ahead and attach that to the Nami. And then we'll use this young girl effect and give Nami another rested Dawn. So we'll be swinging with 8. And so as an Emu player, you probably want to start countering out at this point. You want to, in this matchup, since there's this Nami, you want to go down to 2 life, and then you want to start countering out as much as possible. So we'll go ahead and give him 2 2Ks. We'll do that one, and then we'll probably just do 2 of those because generally you don't play these out with your stage, whereas this card can be helpful later on in the game. And this Hirohoshi is a 2k counter, 1 cost. You may rest this character, then return 2 cards from the trash to the bottom of your deck in any order. If your opponent has 6 or more cards in hand, your opponent discards 1. So that's pretty good for Nami because Nami is generally going to have a lot of cards in their hand. Alright, so we counter out and then we'll end the turn as Nami. Okay, so at this point we're at 7 Dawn. We're gonna want to search using this at your service. And so this is the 10 cost 5 builders. So activate main. If your leader is Emu, you may rest 1 Dawn card and trash 1 card from your hand. Trash all of your characters, including this one. Then play up to 5 Elder type characters with different card names. And 5,000 power from your trash. So we're going to take this because this is the first one that we've seen and we want to see that once we hit our 10 Dawn turn. And then we will go ahead and... So this is when you kind of have to think about how you're going to use your Dawn. So you definitely want to use stage here so I can pull out this Mars, and the on play is you may trash 1 card from your hand, KO up to a character with base cost of 5 or less. And what we're gonna do is, so we're gonna spend 3 Dawn to do that. And then at this point we do have enough cards in trash for this ground test to be active. So we're gonna probably want to leave at least 1 Dawn up. So what we'll do, we'll spend the 3, play out this Mars, we will trash 1 card. We're gonna trash this Nojiro, and then we will KO the Nami. Then the Nami has the on KO, turn the top of your life face up, and then play up to 1 of your characters with 6,000 power or less. So we're gonna do that. We're gonna turn that up, and then we're gonna play this card which has 6,000 power or less. And then what we're gonna do, and also I'm playing this matchup as if I don't know what's in my opponent's hand, just to let you know. Okay, so what we're gonna do for starters, we're gonna attack 5 into lead. And as a Nami player, I could trash 1 card, but I can also block with this Marco. So we're gonna not trash the card, we're gonna block. That's 5 into 6, so nothing happens. And then we're gonna use leader ability, and we're gonna trash this Saturn that's on the field so we can draw a card. Okay, so we got another counter event. And we're gonna go ahead and because he because the Nami blocked, I think I actually just want to hit 6 into the Marco and leave out 2 Dawn. So we're gonna do that. We're gonna go 6. It's asking if we want to trash for our leader ability. We do not. And we can counter out of that or take it and draw 2 cards. So we're gonna go ahead, we're gonna take it so we can draw 2 cards, and then we will end our turn. So now we can potentially use 2 Dawn to do 2 of these event counters. So as the Nami, we got a couple options. We can play this Nico Robin. I don't want to do that because I don't want to trash the Newgate. I'll read out the Nico Robin. On play, you may trash one card from the top of your life. If your leader has a Straw Hat type crew, add up to 2 cards from the top of your deck to the top of your life. And then on your opponent's turn, on KO, you may deal 1 damage to your opponent. We do not want to do that because then I would be trashing the Newgate, and the Newgate's extremely strong, so we don't want to do that. The other thing we could do is we could play this Kid. On play, you may rest this card, trash up to 1 card from the top of your opponent's life cards. End of turn, your opponent has 2 or less life. Draw 1, trash 1. And the last thing we could do is we could pudding him. So without knowing what's in the Emu's hand, we can see that there are 2 Dawn active, so he's definitely got 2 events. One thing to think about with Emu is when they're going to be at 10 Dawn, so they're not going to be at 10 Dawn next turn, so they're not going to be able to play out their 5 Elders yet. So I could potentially play the Kid and then I could pudding next turn. Oh, one other thing I forgot to mention is when you use a search event or search character, you have to reveal that character. So when I searched for the 5 Elders, I had to show my opponent that I drew the 5 Elders. So if you can remember, you know that they have at least 1 5 Elders in hand and potentially 2 events in hand. So in this situation, because the Emu isn't going to be at 10 Dawn next turn, and I could potentially putting them next turn to get rid of the 5 Elders from hand, what we're going to do is we're going to play the Eustace Kid. We're going to use the Eustace Kid's effect. We're going to rest him and then trash the top of their life. That's a pretty good card to trash. Then we'll use her effect, give Nami a rested Dawn, and we will go 6 into lead. So in this situation, as the Emu player, you have 2 options. You can either use a 2K, or you can use an event card, or you can block with this Mars, so 3 options. Generally speaking, I would use the 2K here. So we're going to go ahead and do that. We're not going to block. The reason I don't want to block is because I want to have a potential hit for next turn. And we'll give him a 2K. And yeah, that's it for Nami's turn. So at the end of turn with Eustace Kid, I get to draw 1, trash 1. We'll trash the Gravity Blade because if you read it, place up to 2 6 cost or less in any order on the bottom of your owner or of the owner's deck. But because these have the blanketed effect of not being able to be removed, it's not very helpful in this matchup, so we'll go ahead and trash that. So now we're at 9 Dawn. This is a pretty good effect. It gets rush. Then when attacking, if I have 10 or more in trash, opponent's character gets minus 2k power. So we're going to go ahead and play that out. I know I definitely want to play that out. So we're going to use stage, re-rest 3, play that out. And so what we can do is we can use our Dawn, we can swing 7, minus 2k the Kid. And we can... So we can swing 7 into 7. As the Nami player, we're definitely going to want to save the Kid if possible. So we'll go ahead and give him a 2k because I know that I'm going to want to pudding him next turn. Get rid of his counter, get rid of the 5 elders, and hope that he doesn't draw any for his 10 Dawn turn. So we have 3 2Ks, so we'll go ahead and pick one that we don't care about, which will be this Frankie. So now he's a 9k, so that doesn't go through. Then we're gonna do... We'll do another, or actually, we're gonna use our leader ability. We'll trash one. We're gonna trash this guy, draw a card. And we're gonna do another 7. So it's asking for leader ability, don't want to use that yet. And we'll give him another 2k. We'll give him the baby 5. So now at this point, there's really not much I can do because I want to leave up Dawn for my counter events. So we're just going to go ahead and we're going to swing 5 at leader. And so in this situation, I could take it because I could get a Edward Newgate, which is a good card to play next turn. Or I can use my leader ability and trash a card. So because we know that we want to use pudding next turn, we're actually going to trash one of these Robins. Or no, we're not going to do that. We're going to take it because having a 10 cost Newgate in hand is good. And then we're going to end our turn. So we know we definitely want to play out pudding, so we're just going to go ahead and do that. And then the idea is we're hoping that the Emu doesn't pull any counter events or 10 cost elders. So in this situation, we have 6 Dawn left. There's really not too much to play from hand. So I think it would actually be better to go for game here. So my general rule of thumb is when I have 2 different attacks, I make one of the lower ones equal to one of them. And then I split up the Dawn evenly. So we can swing 10, 11, and we basically just hope that we finish out the game. So we'll go ahead, Dawn Tanami. She's got 10, so I can actually swing 12, 10. Or 11, 11. So we'll go ahead and do that. We'll do 11, 11. So I'm going to have to use a ground death. We go to 9. We'll use a 2k. And we'll go ahead and we'll use another 1k. So now I know he's got 2 cards in hand as Nami. I could potentially leave up 1 Dawn for some of my counter events, so I'm just going to go ahead and swing 9. And just under the assumption that he's probably got to take it. Because in this matchup, I know that all of his counter events are plus 4k, so a 9k swing is a good swing into Emu. So we'll do that. He's going to have to take it. Here's one of those events. They get to draw a card because of Nami's effect. And then we go ahead and end our turn. So we're going to go ahead, draw the baby 5, and then we will trash the red rock because it's useless in this matchup. Okay, so now as a Emu player, things are not looking great. The basic idea is I want to try to find 10 costs Elder at all cost. So we'll go ahead and use this search. There's a 10 cost Elder. Then, since we got the 10 cost Elder, we're actually not going to use another search. Or no, we probably should because we want more counter events. So we're going to do another search. We did not get the counter event, but we got another 10 cost Elder. And then I have to trash one card, so we'll trash this Mars. Then I can use my leader effect. Trash that. We got a stage, still not an event that we want. So we're gonna have to do 3, then 1 more for the 5 elders. So we're gonna have 4 Dawn. So we could potentially swing for 7. So because I know that he's going to be playing the 5 elders as a Nami player, I'm going to want to trash 1 card. We can trash this Nami, make myself 7k leader for the turn. And then I'm going to use this Blaze Slice. Or sorry, Flame Split. Actually, there's an idea that maybe I don't want to use that because I can use it after he plays out 5 elders, and then I can rest one of his blockers. So we're gonna go ahead, we're gonna give him a 2k. Then as the Emu player, we're gonna swing another 7. And I'll counter out of that one as a Nami. Then we're going to use our stage, rest 3. Then rest another one. We will trash the stage. And I get to play out the 5 elders. So, first effect that you want to use as the 5 elders, you want to search. We did not get the card that we wanted, so we'll go ahead and take the 2k since we already have another 5 elders. And then maybe that'll let us survive. And we'll put that at the top. And then if I want to, I can trash 1 card to KO. I don't think it's worth it though, so we'll just go ahead, we'll swing 7 into 7, and hopefully that the kid doesn't survive. So we're gonna go ahead and use Flame Split. Gonna give 1k to him, and then we're gonna rest the blocker that draws a card. And yeah, so not looking very good. There's a couple different ways to do it. I could give my leader unblockable, but only if I have 1 or less life, so that's not going to work. So as the Nami player, we just want to go for game here. So we know he has 1 blocker and 1 Dawn up. So generally we're going to want to swing 7s into him. So we'll do 3. We'll swing 7. We'll go ahead and have him block. And then because I know that he's got 1 event because of the 1 Dawn up, we're going to swing 9 into him, so he's got to use an event and 1 more counter. So we'll use the event, we'll counter out again, and then we'll just go ahead and attach all the Dawn to Nami. And he cannot get out of that, so that's game. So that's generally what a game looks like. you know, you're gonna have to lose a lot in order to get an idea of how you wanna play it out. And some general tips that I give people is I would try a lot of different like meta decks, because you're going to be seeing a lot of them in your locals. So you might as well kind of get an understanding of what they do exactly. Okay, last part of the slides, where to start. This is kind of my opinion on where new players should start out. First, I would download the sim. The sim is great. It's free. It's got all the cards in it. I would play a bunch of sim games. I would try a bunch of different decks, a bunch of different colors. This will help you kind of decide what physical deck you want to start out with. And then that kind of moves me on to my next point, which is I would only make one deck to start out with. In other words, I wouldn't invest all the money into like multiple decks. And the reason for that is because, you know, you might have fun on sim, but until you really get into your community, you're not really going to know what it's like playing in the community, whether or not there's a big community, small community, whether or not you want a big community or a small community. So I would generally just build one deck, and I would also go with one of the starter decks. I think we're up to 29 right now. The nice thing about the starter decks, it comes with a bunch of cards in it, it comes with a leader, and it comes with Tendon. So kind of play around with the starter deck, see if there's one that you like, and then if you really don't like any of the starter decks, just go ahead and start making another deck. Another thing I would say is try a bunch of different colors for the decks. Kind of decide what you want to play. When I first came into One Piece, I thought that I would be more interested in purple because I like ramping and playing out big things. At least I did in past games that I played. But it turns out that I actually gravitated towards yellow with the life manipulation and green decks. So, you know, you think when you go into this game that you might have a certain deck, but until you really play it, you're not going to really know. So another thing is, you know, there's no right way to build a deck. There are meta decks that people will put up on YouTube. I make YouTube content using meta decks or somewhat close to meta decks. But, you know, you can just play whatever you really want. There's no right way to do it. I'm gonna plug myself a little bit here. You can check out my YouTube channel. I've got a bunch of deck lists on there. They're not always meta, they're mostly my deck lists, so just go ahead and pick one up and see if you like it. And then my final thing is we do have alt arts in One Piece TCG. I would not worry about the alt arts until you really get invested in this game and you start going to locals for every week for months. I would not worry about investing a lot of money into it because, you know, it's a hobby. If you find yourself really enjoying the hobby and you have the means, by all means, buy the alt arts, completely alt out your deck. But when you're just starting out, I would try to go as cheap as possible. Anyway, that's it for me today. I hope you enjoy the video. If you find it useful, like, comment, subscribe. I have deck lists, I do pack openings, I do all that kind of stuff for One Piece. The final thing I will say is if you want to leave a comment, like if you have any questions that maybe I didn't cover in this video, which I'm sure there are going to be some, just leave a comment. I will check the comments on this video going forward, and I'll try to answer them as best I can. Alright, that's it for me, guys. Have a good one. Peace out.